Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Pierre, and joining me, as always, is Tim.
Wabba-dabba-doo-doo.
Do you know, it's a special occasion, Tim.
Uh-huh.
Is that why you went with such a wacky hello?
That's my new catchphrase.
This is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a horror movie, and this is episode 500 of Screams After Midnight.
Wow.
We have been around the sun many times, screaming after midnight, and here we are. You know, they're going to talk about some tribe in this movie that's 10,000 years old, and I'm like, 500. Like we can start talking about things that happened 500 episodes ago, and it'll sound like ancient times. Like,
that's true.
I found an artifact from episode 22.
A time when we could just freely go outside and go to the movies. And...
The world has significantly changed since we started this podcast. That is very true. There's no denying
Some may
that.
say because of the podcast.
Let's not take credit now.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Lots of bad things there. So welcome everyone to the show. Since it is episode 500, we did end up with a special treat to
who?
I think they enjoy when we do a bad episode, or not a bad episode. I mean, they like a good episode, but I think they enjoy when we do a bad movie, is what I mean to say. Yeah. You don't get much worse.
Freaks.
You don't get much worse than Uva Bowl. So
no, you really don't. Many have tried. Come close, but oh boy.
We're here today to talk about Alone in the Dark from 2005, which for me is a first time watch. This is my third Uva Bowl film, but it is... Joe, it's notable. It is notable that I somehow avoided his filmography entirely until I had to review some of them. So every one I've reviewed, it's been a first time watch, and that trend shall continue. There's no way I'm watching any of these for any other reason.
Well, we did House of the Dead on the show before. What's the other one you've seen?
Me and Connor reviewed Blood Rain.
Okay.
Once upon a time.
Can't say I've had the pleasure of seeing that one.
I would not recommend it. Something about the way it was filmed kept giving me a headache, which is not something most movies can accomplish. So I have to give it points for that. Yeah. So this one stars Christian Slater, Tara Reid, who is a smarty pants in this because she's wearing glasses. So she's a scientist lady.
Well, her name is Reid, so
she reads. Tara reads. And then of course we also have Stephen Dorff, who I actually didn't know was in this, but he popped up and I went, of course he is. Of course he's in this.
Okay.
He's in a lot of sludge, let's be honest. So
he's good in Blade.
It's based on a video game. Or a video game series.
Yeah. Lots of buttons. You press an X and square and triangle, circle.
Probably not the originals, because the original game is from like 1992, from like PC, and well, maybe even PC. I want to say it was like
PC. Ugh.
I want to say it was it even like PC though? I want to say it was like Amiga or something silly like that. So before our time. I mean, we were alive, but it's before our time in terms of proper video gaming. Right?
Yeah, proper video gaming.
Yes.
Yes.
I did have the fourth one, New Nightmare, on PS2, but I only ever played like 5 minutes of it. Like I got it because it's called Alone in the Dark. It's a survival horror movie or survival horror game. Sorry.
Yeah, and that was the one that Wes Craven directed.
Very good. Very good. Yes, Freddy Krueger kept popping up from the brief moments I played of it. And then after that, there was like a reboot in like 2009, and at a demo, and I remember it got panned when it came out. But the one thing I do remember from playing the demo is that the inventory system was quite interesting, because you had like a trench coat, and basically when you opened your inventory, you looked down and opened your trench coat and looked into your either side of it. So So you feel like a peeping Tom. It was like a peeping Tom simulator. Well, not peeping Tom. Sorry, a flasher. That's what I'm going for. who are often peeping Toms as well. I mean, there's a bit of an overlap in that sort of
Mm-hmm.
the pervert community.
The pervert community. Yeah.
Yes, no disrespect.
Oh yeah, I mean, many of them are our listeners, I'm sure. So,
Some may say it's our highest demographic.
so I don't know anything about the game. So do you remember liking it or enjoying it at all, or is it just something that's escaped your brain from long ago?
I played like 10 minutes of New Nightmare, and 2009 I played the demo, and that's it. So I mean, I don't really have a lot of knowledge on the games.
Yeah, it's I feel like they don't get brought up a lot when people are talking about classic survival horror. Like I feel like there's a lot of like smaller kind of, yeah, obviously you have your big boys, your Resident Evils and Silent Hills, that sort of thing. And then like I feel like there's a lot of smaller games but kind of have like cult followings. Like, so you hear people talk about like Fatal Frame a lot. And then like there's kind of like weird ones that just stick out in my mind for whatever reason. I must have seen like an ad in GamePro or saw a commercial for like Haunting Ground or something like back in the day, that whatever I always think of. But like Alone in the Dark is one that just really escapes my brain. I feel like I never see it whenever I'm looking at like old like retro survival horror lists or anything. So I'm curious if the games are actually good, if there's like a small fan base for them or something, or if they are just trash. I was telling you before we logged on that I was looking at the trailer for I believe it was New Nightmare, just to kind of see how the games would compare to this movie. And the trailer I watched, I mean, it seemed okay. It was like I don't know what system it was. I assume PlayStation or PS2.
If I remember correctly, it's a cross-gen game, so it was on PS1 and PS2. So
okay, yeah, that's from the graphics. That seems about right. But I mean, it looked decent enough. I mean, it looked like what you expect a survival horror to look like. It was kind of slow paced and people kind of walking, having a flashlight, looking around these kind of creepy gothic setting. Not a lot of scenes inside of a museum or like a marketplace or anything. But I don't know. Just looking at the trailer alone, I was like, it seems like it could have been a fun game I might have liked back in the day.
Yeah. I'll tell you this though, you're probably not prepared for what the original games, because Alone in the Dark 1, 2, and 3. Well, at least the first one. I don't know if I've seen 2 or 3, but I think I did technically like try to play the first one once and gave up very, very quickly because it controlled like ass, and like I think I died like very, very, very instantly as soon as the first enemy popped out. And it's like a pre-Resident Evil 1 game by a few years before like consoles could do 3D graphics really. So it was it's it's primitive, shall we say. Okay. A lot of flat colors, a lot of big triangles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say that it shouldn't be respected. I mean, if it really is kind of like why we have everything that came after, then by all means, I'm glad it existed. But I mean, does this movie have very much to do with any of the games? We can't tell you really, but I mean, if I was to guess, I would say the main dude's name I think is from the games, and that's about it.
Okay.
That's all I can confirm.
So we got Carnby confirmation.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that name. It sounded familiar anyway when he started saying it.
How can you forget a name like Edward Carnby?
I mean, you can. It's ingrained into your brain.
Yeah,
that name.
Mario, Sonic, Edward Carnby.
There's monsters that have been awoken or released onto Earth from another dimension or something like that, because a like archaeologist dude is experimenting and trying to study them. There's a secret bureau, 713, I think they said their name was, led by Stephen Dorff. They hunt supernatural creatures on Earth. That's their whole thing. So there's a whole like government agency designed to fight monsters and aliens and demons and shit. And that's
they're like the Watchers, and
oh yes,
Christian Slater is the Slayer, and Tara Reid, of course, is your Willow, classic Willow.
Christian Slayer, you mean?
Slayer, yes. It actually would be a pretty badass name.
Christian Slater's character, it has a bit of a backstory from when he was a child, which ties into all this stuff that's going on, and that some of that's explored throughout the film as well.
Yeah.
That's about as good as I can do without just describing scenes. So, Tim, what did you think of Alone in the Dark?
So I'd seen this when it came out way back in the day, because this would have been around the time that I was, not to brag, but an assistant manager at Blockbuster. So pretty much anything that came out between about 2004 and 2008, I would probably rent and take home. Yeah, but I did not remember anything at all about the movie except for that it was god awful. So unfortunately though, I did end up having to watch it twice within the last 2 days, because I started watching it last night and I was so goddamn bored throughout this movie. It was impossible to pay attention, even though I don't know, I felt like I was paying attention, but by the end of it, I was like, I don't really know what happened, to be honest. So I actually threw it on again today while I was at work. Did it help me understand it better? No, not really. Yeah, this movie is it's absolute trash. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't want to go too negative on a director or something, because you never know, sometimes they're trying their hardest, or maybe things don't go the way they want, or maybe they're really passionate but they, God bless them, just aren't that great, or sometimes even if it's an indie director, they might stumble across a review and then want to hurt their feelings. But man, Uwe Boll is just sucks. He's just so goddamn bad. I don't know how anyone ever let him make a movie. It's just it's really makes you think. I'm assuming he had a lot of money from somewhere before, or I don't know, was blackmailing people or something.
This has come up before, Timmy. I mean, I can't tell you the exact details. All I can tell you is that the reason why he made so many movies for a specific window of time is because he had some sort of tax break thing from the German banking system. It was a weird. Basically, his movies were a tax scam.
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah.
That's what it boils down to, right? They were some sort of scam, and then when that loophole that he was exploiting in the banking system was closed, all of a sudden, movies stop. He tried to Kickstarter 1 or 2, and those did not go well. In fact, he told everyone to F off.
The president of Germany just was looking over his tax returns. He's like, "What is this? What?
What is Uwe doing? No,
Uwe." Yeah, no, I mean it's just incredibly painful to watch. It's to me, this movie is just a black hole of your time. I just feel like every thing was just being sucked out of me while I watched it. It's just there's no charm to it. It's not so bad that it's funny. There's maybe a few parts in the beginning I was kind of laugh, but that quickly just delves into just really boring. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just it's not pleasant to look at. No one's really doing a good job. The story is dumb and convoluted and doesn't really make sense. And I mean, I guess it probably does, because it's not that crazy of a story, but it's just so dumb and boring and inept that it's hard to actually pay attention. The CGI looks so bad, and I know it's early 2000s, but this is, even for that time period, it's really, really bad. And yeah, I don't know, it just it sucks. I hate it. I did not have fun at all watching it.
Well, that's a very strong emotions coming from Tim over there. Oh yeah, it's trash. It's just one might say straight up garbage.
Garbage.
What's so funny is that the first 20-30 minutes are really bad, right? They're really, really bad. Mm-hmm. But it nosedives after that point,
yeah.
which is what's really basically there's a shootout sequence about 30 to 40 minutes into the movie, and once it hits that, it nosedives off a cliff and never even tries to climb back up, and it's just so
Yeah.
boring from that point on. Yes, Timmy.
Just talking about that shootout scene real quick. It's so funny that like Tara Reid is supposed to play this like. I mean, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like the nerdy, maybe a little uptight academic scientist person, and then like I love this shootout happens, and she's just like grabbing this gun and just like shooting like all these things, like no hesitation, no like what is this? How do I do this? Like, oh, I've never used a gun before. She is just like in there, like the video game character that she's like supposed to be portraying. It's so dumb.
Well, here's the thing: is that you're saying she's supposed to be the nerdy scientist. Why are you saying that? Think about it.
mean,
What has the movie told you to tell you that? They've given you
well, you know,
a pair
sorry.
of glasses. That's what they've given you. She's wearing glasses. There's nothing else to actually
No.
give you a sense of what her character actually is. She doesn't do or say anything except
yeah.
log in, artifact, and then complain that Christian Slater is her boyfriend, but he's been missing for like 6 weeks, which is completely irrelevant because
Yeah.
after she complains for 10 seconds, it's never brought up again. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he was gone for 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think the only one who ever really tells you anything is like that security guard at the beginning that for some reason is like arguing with the delivery guy. He's like, oh, she's like the head of this mythology wing or whatever dumb thing she was at the museum.
Yeah, I'll just say full spoilers because I don't think either of us give a shit about trying to sugarcoat this.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, it's,
Like-
it's absolute trash. So you should not care about spoilers. Just listen to us complain about it and never watch it. You'll have a much happier life. I guarantee
And you know what's
you.
funny too? Can you guess the movie that I actually watched right before this movie?
Don't be afraid of the dark.
No, that would be funny to do a double dark movie. Well, actually, I didn't even like think about it or do it on purpose, but the movie I watched before this actually does have dark in the title.
Dark.
What if maybe I was like preparing for something that's coming out soon, a new movie coming out soon? I might be rewatching some old stuff.
Oh, Dark Knight.
Yes. It just
Much better
like,
movie.
that movie is just such actually I watched a couple of Nolan movies the last couple of days. I watched Insomnia and Batman Begins the other day as well.
Oh,
But yeah, like
depends.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's controversial of an opinion to say Christopher Nolan is a very masterful director, and just really digging in and like watching like The Dark Knight, and it's just like everything is just set up like so beautifully, and I don't know, there's like it's a long movie, but there's like so much like payoff, and it's just the performances are so good, and you just really get like sucked in, and it's just like I don't know, it's just something that like makes you happy to be like, oh yes, like this is what a talented filmmakers and actors and everyone just really working on all cylinders can do to create like just a movie that's just
And I guess the
a
point
delight for the eyes.
the point you're about to make is that Alone in the Dark is when not a single cylinder is firing.
Nothing is working the way it should be. It's just like going from one exact end of the spectrum to the other.
I mean, I'm not going to argue the praise of Dark Knight. I mean,
It's a good film.
it's a phenomenal film. Maybe Carl reviewed that because all the Batman movies a few years ago, and like we sat and had a debate about ideology and philosophy because the Dark Knight presents these ideas and presents it as all these things. Alone in the Dark presents nothing, and it has nothing to say. It has nothing appealing. There's no charm. There's nothing likable remotely in the film. It's the only way I can describe Everball. Certainly this one, because this might be strange to say, but out of the three of them I've seen, this is probably the most mainstream movie of these that I've seen of his.
This was in theaters, right?
I think it was. I think I remember it being in theaters.
Yeah, it was like the first made for Sci-Fi Channel movie in theaters.
But yeah, I guess the way I'd describe this, and to an extent some of his other films, is that it's like everything. So if you watch like a really bad made for sci-fi movie, or you watch like a direct-to-video movie that's really bad, and you can kind of feel like, oh, this is really low effort. They're not, they have really crappy looking fake muzzle flashes for the guns, and they have really simplistic sets. They have no money, clearly. The script is just a series of cliches. Dialogue is dumb. It's kind of like if you take that, and I'm sure most of us have experienced at least a few of those types of movies, right, and regretted it deeply.
Oh, yes.
An Uwe Boll film is like...
I watch a lot of stuff on Tubi, so yeah, I know what you mean.
So Uwe Boll's kind of like that, but like somehow he's made every single element that makes those movies feel like those movies. He somehow takes all of those and makes them all worse.
Yeah.
Like he somehow has like the pinnacle of each of these negative qualities, and they all just coalesce into this just miserable time. Because like you said, it's not a funny bad movie. This is not The Room. This is not even Birdemic. This is not anything like that. This is just painful and annoying to look at. Like there's only so many scenes where characters will say really generic lines to each other, like, "Hey, you all right? We have to go over there. Are you okay?" Like, it was hurting my brain, Timmy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. And it doesn't help that, I don't know, the movie, it's not that long, but it feels long. Like, this movie probably should have been like 78 minutes. Like, but yeah, even at the, what is it, just like a little over 90 minutes, like maybe an hour 40 at most.
I think it's an hour 40 actually, once you, including the credits, yeah.
But that, I mean, even that, it just feels like it drags on and on and on. And like, and yeah, I think part of it is like, it's trying so hard to like introduce you to these concepts that are just so boring and generic. Oh, we got to learn about this ancient civilization and these monsters and this like secret paranormal bureau. But it's like, none of it has any like charm or is that interesting. It's not like a mythology or lore that you want to kind of have explored. It's just very dull and generic, and yeah, none of the people in the movie really feel like they're invested in it. Like, they all sound like they're doing just cliche lines, and it's
a paycheck. Like they're just there.
Yeah.
Like I think when I talked about cliche lines, like Christian Slater has this narration occasionally, and like and it's all.
I kept wondering, like, wait, who's he talking to?
Yeah, it's just all this cliched. I'm getting closer. I can feel it. And but he says that like 25 minutes into the movie, and like you've not set up enough for me to feel like there's anything to get close to. Like you're talking about it as if it's a mystery. It's very odd. And then like most of the movie, they're in like a team. It's not like he's on his own investigating stuff past like the fight scene that he has in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, and it's so weird because like, at first it seems like he's running away from this agency, and then it kind of seems like they're okay. I guess he was like part of it, but then like it seems that's like, wait, is he joining back up again? Like he seems to be very friendly terms with everyone, and I don't know.
Except Stephen Dorff. Stephen Dorff doesn't like him very much.
They have the very kind of friendly rival kind of thing going on. Felt like
Stephen Dorff looks at Tara Reid at one point, and I thought, oh, is this going to be a love triangle? And then luckily it never happened. Luckily it never came up. But I was wondering if maybe that was the implication, is that he's jealous because Slater got Tara.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. So if we go to the beginning, it opens with this extremely tedious crawl. Like, and it's funny. I was watching it. I was like, man, like if you can't sum up whatever you need to tell people in like 2, maybe 3 short paragraphs, like don't even do it. Like I was trying to think, like, wasn't there another movie I just watched that had a really crappy example of this? And I was like, I couldn't think of it. And then I was like, oh wait, The Eternals. Yeah. That's opening with this really dumb, text crawl trying to explain this thing that no one cares about.
The fact is that people tend to quite like the fact that Star Wars does it, but and maybe it's just because it goes at an angle. So people like the angle. I don't know. Yeah, this is an especially long opening text crawl with a narrator reading it out loud to you. and it does this thing where it kind of like highlights certain parts of it as he's talking, and it goes on for a while. Like it's it doesn't all fit in the screen. Like it scrolls past the screen, and there's still more to come up at the bottom. It keeps going.
Like, Jesus.
And it's explaining, this tribe, and to be honest, like I forgot everything they said like seconds after it finished.
I mean, none of it is interesting.
No, it's.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Star Wars, but it's getting in there. It's just giving you the facts. It's like, boom, hey, the Empire is here. It's bad. There's war. Rebel alliances are fighting them. Okay, let's go. And there's big fanfare. And yeah, it's at an angle and stuff. It looks cool. And it's in outer space. This is just like really boring. They got some guy to read it. I don't know. The person that was Christopher Lambert, but I don't think it is.
No. That's why I didn't like him. We talked about
it. Sounded a little bit like him.
Don't listen to Tim. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you're the huge Chris Lambert expert.
I don't know what he sounds like. He's got a very distinct voice, Timmy.
Yeah, so did the narrator on this.
He did not sound like this weird mix of French, Swedish, Dutch, and whatever else he's got mixed in there.
I guess we'll never know, because I doubt either one of us is going to go back and watch a second of this.
So it's a very good point. It's a very good point. There's a flashback at the start with like young Christian Slater hiding, and there's a corrupt like nun letting like the scientist dudes or the archaeologists like steal 20 kids for experimentation. It's the opening of the movie. But one
like, you think like that should be like so crazy that like you think that, like, saying that out loud, that sounds like more ridiculous and funny than it is, but for some reason like the movie manages to make like stuff like that just be very like boring and dismissive.
Yeah, it's just a conversation between two people.
Yeah.
With really uninspired dialogue, and then there's a kid Christian Slater just sort of like shivering somewhere because he's on his own because he's escaped.
And listen, if we're gonna do a movie based on a video game that opens with a flashback scene in an orphanage, let's just watch Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, okay?
I mean, say what you want about that movie, but it's better than this.
Oh, absolutely.
So we cut to present day, and he.
So I will say this next scene with him on the plane, I did think was kind of funny, with him just like trying to scare this kid for no reason.
Oh, I didn't even remember this. I was going to go straight to him in the car. Yeah, he's on a plane coming home, and he talks to a kid who the kid's mum's sleeping, and the kid's like, "Hey, do you like this book? Because like, this talks about monsters in the dark, but there's no real monsters. That Mum always says blah blah blah." He's like, "She's wrong, kid. There's monsters."
Yeah, it's funny that the kid just happens to like, I don't know, be telling them like all these themes they're about to, well, he's telling all this stuff that you think the movie is going to be about. Like, you think darkness and stuff is going to play like a big part, but it doesn't really feel like it does. Like, I don't know, I guess it's supposed to be. I don't know if they talk about it more in the movie and it was just like hard to get that interested in, but
it does for like 2 scenes, something like that.
Yeah,
it feels like it's irrelevant for the third act, which is weird. You think that all the rules you set up in the rest of the movie would be relevant for the third act, but they don't matter at all.
Yeah, there's those few scenes, but overall, like, kind of a bright movie. Like, his last scene's like outdoors and stuff, and like very brightly lit things. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, this scene is real weird. Also, like, Christian Slater like wakes up from a nightmare, and the kid says something like, "Oh, did you have a nightmare? Did you eat too much cheese? Cheese gives you nightmares." I was like, what is going on? And then the kid says, yeah, he's telling about the book. He's like, oh, like you said, he's like, "Oh, here's my book. Like, all these monsters hiding in the dark, but it's okay because there's nothing in the dark. You're not to be scared." And like, Christian Slater just looks at him, and he's already kind of like an intense looking guy, and he's just telling him like, "No, you should be scared of the dark." Like, I don't know, that was really funny to me. If the whole movie was him just like freaking out kids and normies, like I think that would be kind of funny. But and then I will say the taxi cab scene was kind of funny too. But
sounds like you like a lot of this movie, Timmy, honestly, at this point.
This is like literally like the first 10 minutes. After that, it's like a big nosedive into boringness. But I mean, I like this because the kid and the taxi driver are both like really weird heightened characters. Everything after this is just very boring, like stoic cliche people that just feel like they don't have any characters at all. Like at least I can say like, oh, like weirdly annoying, engaging kid, and like I don't know, the very like weird gung ho like taxi cab driver like stick out of my mind. And then everyone else is just like boring, like government officials or whatever, people at this bureau.
I could be wrong, but I think the taxi cab driver, the actor, I think it was an actor for Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh yeah, that he did look familiar, but I can't think of who. But that does sound about right.
Yeah, he's got this longer hair in this and stuff, but I think that was him. I think it was the guy for Freddy vs. Jason who was like really intense and like told everyone what the rules were.
That makes sense.
And made everyone remember Freddy, and then found out that remembering Freddy's what gives him his power, and he's like, oops.
Oops.
That's a whoopsie daisy on my part. Yeah. There you go.
It's just funny. I like him. He was like talking to Christian Slater. He's like, so what do you do? And like Christian Slater's like, I'm a paranormal agent. And he's just like, oh wow, like no way. Oh, that's so cool. And he's like, yeah, hey, by the way, this taxi cab's following us. Can you get rid of him? He's like, sure. And then like all of a sudden, like 2 seconds into this movie, like you're in like a high-speed taxi cab chase.
Tim, you did not tell me you had a Christian Slater impression in your back pocket.
I wasn't playing about it, but I just kind of came naturally, I guess. What's kind of funny though is that they end up like crashing, and like the taxi cab driver is like badly. The interaction they have is kind of like this playful back and forth. So I thought it was setting up like, oh, this guy is going to be the kind of like the audience surrogate character who gets like partnered up with Christian Slater, and he doesn't know anything about this world. So, he's the person Christian Slater will explain stuff to and bounce it off. So, it's like a storytelling trope that gets the audience to understand the world and everything. But no, he's just like this taxi cab driver that gets like gravely injured and then you never see again.
Yes, he's in this one scene, effectively. The cars crash, and then Christian Slater goes on the run, and this bald guy who's chasing him starts pursuing on foot. Obviously, all this is horribly shot, but there is one really funny moment in this, because he's chasing him kind of like through a market, and then the back of like a factory kind of area, and there's a lot of like things to jump on and off and stuff. Mm-hmm. This guy chasing him's got some abilities, because he does this thing where he jumps over like a fence and like off like one of the little stall roofs, and he ends up like, the best way I can describe it, and it's in slow motion, and there's a lot of little bits and moments of awkward slow motion in this chase scene. But the best way I can describe this jump is that he then kind of like glides down like at a really sort of shallow angle to the ground. Really, really weird. I think he maybe like taps another roof on the way down as well, so it's kind of like he's almost like doing like a, I feel like you're jumping stones and you're kind of just going hop, pop, pop. It's kind of like he's doing that on stall roofs, just sort of at a declining angle. It's really weird. It's like very vampire-esque, except that it's in broad daylight and he's not a vampire. But Christian Slater struggles with him. Does win the fight though? Does impale him with no
one seems to really notice or care that much.
No. We then cut to Tara Reid, who is, I can say, a brainy scientist lady because she has glasses on. And they mention her boyfriend's been missing for 6 weeks. Now, I had no idea that they were talking about Christian Slater at this point. I thought this was someone who went missing and was dead because of monster stuff happened, right? I thought that's what they were setting up. So, like a scene or two later, when Christian Slater just casually saunters into this like place where she works at the museum, and she like freaks out and like punches him, and like they have an argument.
Slap him, she punches him.
Yeah. And you think, oh, this is going to be a big part of the movie, is him winning her back over because he just ditches her to go and investigate things. It is never mentioned after this scene again that he left and was gone without a message, without telling her where he was going or anything. It's never brought up again.
And so, yeah, it's very dumb. One thing I wasn't sure about is, does the museum, do they have any connections to this 713 or whatever? Because everyone seems to be like investigating the same stuff and to be very friendly with each other, but I don't know if they're related at all or they just know of each other, or I don't know. Help me out here. What's going on? What's the connection, if any?
I mean, I'm flattered that you think I would have an answer to that, Terry, because I'm not entirely sure myself. Everyone seems like because I was confused. Is this Bureau 713 or are they secret
Are they
or
secret?
not?
Yeah, I don't
because everyone seems to know who they are, but I don't know if that's just because she kind of works in this field and her boyfriend's Christian Slater, but like at the same time, I don't know. I don't know.
I have no idea.
The thing about Bureau 713 that kind of got me, and this is a really simple little thing, but you know how like, they have some really crappy sets, and there's a lot of stuff that's not that convincing. Whenever they like call back to like base, it's like one woman who's got like a backwards baseball cap on, right? And she's trying to look cool, and she's just got a couple of desks, and there's a few monitors, and that's it. It's like a really bare bones like. This is the headquarters. This is where they're calling back to when they're out on missions. The first time it cut back to her, I'm like, oh my god, that feels like a cutscene in like an old FMV game, right? That's totally. The sort of quality we're dealing with here. Is like crappy FMV Sega CD game. Oh dear. Yeah, a monster shows up. Basically, I mean, it's related to the guy who runs this museum. Is not there right now. He's on a boat because they've dug up this big golden coffin thing.
Gold coffin.
Yeah. Unfortunately for him, there's the captain of the boat that he's like paid off to like take him out here for this, who's got a really weird voice.
He like it sounded like a pirate.
I don't have a pirate voice. He decides that he was, well, I mean, this is a solid gold coffin. Whatever's inside must be valuable. So they attack the old man and try to take it themselves.
Maybe the coffin is valuable.
I imagine the coffin is pretty valuable.
Whatever is inside this giant gold box is surely worth a fortune. You can't just sell the box.
So they open it up and a monster gets out. There's a monster in there, so that's
the fools.
And then that monster shows up at the museum, turns off all the electricity, kills the guard. It sort of comes through his mouth kind of thing from the behind, and it's whatever. There is a couple of alien rip-off shots, although I wouldn't know if I'd call this one an alien rip-off moment, but there is definitely one or two later on. They stick around with their torches, and later on there's an explanation for why the torches still work, even though all the power in the areas went down, because the monster does that to electricity.
Please, I beg you to refer to them as flashlights.
Sorry, flashlights. I don't know, I say flashlights, and I feel like I'm going to slip and say fleshlight, and I don't want that mistake to happen.
I do.
Yeah, so their explanation...
Mr. 50 Shades over here.
Shut up. Their explanation for this is that the closer the electrical item is to its power source, the least likely it will be affected. Meaning that because a torch or a flashlight has its batteries included inside it, it won't be affected, which is the dumbest thing I might have ever heard.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Just no. There's just the no.
So I guess it wouldn't do any good to, get Electro to fight these guys.
Probably not. I mean, unless, I don't know. I mean, he can light up because light's their weakness apparently. Although they barely use that.
Yeah.
Like no one tries to shine a light on them. They just like have these like light bullets that explode a light when it hits them. Did Stephen Dorff bring that from Blade? Is he like, hey, we got some props from Blade lying around. Let's use these bad boys.
I mean, a Uvable production does sound like the kind of movie where they do make like people bring in their own props.
Oh yeah, I'm sure all the black SWAT gear that all this bureau were wearing was just like, hey, you guys have all worked in movies before. I'm sure you got some black SWAT gear lying around. It's the sort of thing you just sort of collect as an actor, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so they run about a little bit. There's a little bit of sneaking. There's some really bad shots of the monster running down the hallways and stuff, and it looks like shit. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. I appreciate your honesty, because I agree. I think the CGI in this is horrendous. It's really, really bad. And like, I don't know, sometimes when you watch older movies, if you're going back to some in the 90s, sometimes even bad CGI can have a little bit of charm to it, but this is just like bad.
Oh, something we forgot to mention is that the night before this, when the
a bunch of people just get up and walk away.
when the coffin's opened, it sends it like a signal, and a bunch of people. It turns out it's the other 19 orphans who were experimented on. Christian Slater, we later find out, does have the same alien parasite inside his body. We find that out when he goes to Bureau 13, because he's friendly with the doctor who does the autopsies. So he goes to talk to him and finds out that he actually has one of these things inside him on his spinal cord, but it's dead, probably because he got electrocuted when he was a kid.
Which is like just a hell of a throwaway line for him, like, to just be like, yeah, I can't do the impression now because I'm thinking about it too much, but yeah, he's just like, yeah, I was electrocuted as a kid, so that's why it doesn't work. Like, oh, okay. Do you want to talk more about that time you were electrocuted? No? Okay, good. Let's move on.
Yeah, so what is happening to these people? They're like, some of them are turning into monsters, and some of them are just kind of like zombies.
Yeah.
And then there's one who can still do like kung fu in a later scene. So very, very mixed results, shall we say, as for what's happening to these people who had these parasites put in them.
I forget what he says, but like he goes to visit the wife of one of the people that like left, and I don't know, I forget what the wife says, but it made me laugh. Like, she was like, did he leave me or something? And he was just like, no, he would never do that. Like, but I don't know, it didn't seem like it was, I didn't get the impression like he knew him that well, but whatever.
Yeah, they argue with Bureau 13, or it's not Bureau 13, sorry, Bureau 713.
713. It has that very catchy name.
Yeah, Christian Slater goes home and goes for a nap. Tara Reid eventually shows up, and now he has this device that he presumably found when he was out searching, right, when he was gone. And this is like fragments of a device from the tribe that's been mentioned. And she's like looking at like a schematic of it on the computer, and is comparing it to constellations of stars, and I'm like, what's happening here? And she says something about, I don't know, she says something about constellations. I'll be honest, this was really hard to focus on. But honestly, the thing we all need to get to though is the next scene, right? Which is the monsters showing up, as well as the people who have been possessed or turned into monsters, because there's multiple monsters now. Some of them are Jekyll and hiding or whatever. They show up and attack, and in drops all the Bureau 713 guys again, through the skylights and whatnot. And we get what may be the worst shootout scene that I have ever seen in my life. And I saw House of the Dead, but this might be worse. They do this thing where the gunfire is what's lighting the scenes, so it's just kind of like flashes of light and darkness, but the camera's doing all these insane kind of like, twirls around them. It's doing weird slow motion zoom ins. It's and it's not just their main characters that they're shooting. I mean, Christian Slater and Tara Reid are shooting, but it's all these other SWAT people who we don't know as well. So it's just it's giving all these people time, and it's giving them all big moments. They're
blasting some like heavy metal ass music too.
They are, yes. There's like a song playing as well, which all of it just feels so tacky and lame. And honestly a little headache inducing. Doesn't quite. I mean, Blood Rain was headache inducing the entire time. This at least doesn't do that, but this is just obnoxious to watch. It's ugh. Honestly, from here, like the only thing that's really worth mentioning is that Stephen Dorff all of a sudden is willing to work with them, even though he hated Christian Slater the last time he spoke to him, and they end up going to like a mine or something.
So a mine or a big cave or
something. And believe it or not, we're actually approaching the end of the movie at this point. This is where all the big final stuff happens. It's shocking how little really happens in the movie. That is the weird thing about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, it's like an hour 40 minutes, and it feels like nothing happens. Like, again, I remember like, yeah, 2 scenes from the beginning, and then so much of it is just a blur after that.
So there's a few scenes with the evil kind of like museum curator who has like a monster trapped in a cage and is taking like blood from it and injected it into himself, which means he can now control the monsters like a like some sort of puppet master. He also goes and kills the coroner who works at Bureau 713. He shows up at his house and just kills his wife and then puts one of the weird CG, and it's a really bad CG thing he's holding. This worm that goes into his mouth. And I'm not even sure what that was accomplishing really, because we never see him again. So it's not like that sets something up for later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But there is a famous gif of this movie that I didn't realize from this movie. It's when our villain gets shot and he sort of like fires his gun into the air. Like that's a gif that I've seen online.
Oh, okay.
Of just like, here's one of the worst death scenes of all time, kind of thing. Yeah, they're going down to just basically blow up the entrance to this like other dimension where the monsters originally came from. The bad guy wants to open it. He holds them at gunpoint. They find that the lab down here where all the orphaned kids were experimented on back when Christian Slater was a kid. He sees his name on a bed and it's like, whoa, emotional trauma. This is what it is. They open the door for a bit, but then they just go to shut it, basically. The plan is to just like blow it up. So Stephen Dorff sacrifices himself to go and trigger the bomb because the remote detonator is not working, so whatever. As all this is playing out, there's like just tons of monsters. There's a terrible shot in the woods where it's the bad guy and the camera pulls back in the woods as all these monsters are like jumping and running like past the camera. It looks really bad because the monster design sucks. That's just it's the most generic.
Yeah, they don't look cool or interesting at all. Like I couldn't even really describe them. It's just kind of these black blobby things, kind of.
That part of that maybe because the CG is just a blob. That's
yeah, exactly.
That's part of the problem. It does seem to have 4 legs and a tail, and but I don't know. I presume a face. That's basically all your big climax stuff. All the soldiers up top from Bureau 713 are shooting at the monsters, and then they pretty much all die. And that's it. Yeah. That's really it. Like one woman gets her head kind of separated open, but you don't see it happen. But you just see like her body afterwards, and that's just an okay practical effect, I guess.
Yeah,
compared to the rest of the movie,
it's like you sound so bored, like describing the end of the movie, like when like you should be like this is when you should be amped up and like. All the crazy stuff is happening and like you should be scared for the heroes and the big final fight scene and oh my god, like one of them has to sacrifice themselves. Like there should be this really like emotionally charged moment, but no, it's like so dull and boring. Like it's like I don't know, it's almost impressive how unimpressive like Uwe Boll can make this kind of stuff. Like I don't know, it's so bad and just generic and like is everything about it, the way it looks, like the performances people are giving, like the sets, like it's just everything is designed to make you not care about it, which is just I don't know, absolutely wild.
It's very low effort. It's just here's the tropes we're working with, let's just do them. There's nothing interesting to say about the camera work, and the only time it does anything remotely unique is probably that horrible shootout because it's filmed in this really awkward music video way. And it's just horrible. You don't care about the characters. Like the characters barely have anything to go on. Like other than the fact that they're an ex-couple and they like he's got this background in the orphanage. Like there's very little personality. There's very little to really go on either of them. And then the end of the movie is that once they're back up on the surface, they find out the city's been evacuated, which I question, what did Bureau 713 do this? Is Bureau 713 that big that they were able to evacuate the city? So
do we even know what city they're in?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. There's like a minute or two of like the pair of them walking through the derelict city, and there's like some really tranquil music playing. It was kind of weird. And then for some reason they just decide to like rip off the final shot from Evil Dead. Like that's the ending of this movie. It's the camera zooms in behind them as if something's running up to them, and they both turn around, and then it cuts to black and a Nightwish song starts playing. That's the end of the movie. No disrespect to Nightwish. I enjoy Nightwish, but
I don't think I've ever even heard of them.
Oh really? Oh well, there you go. I wish I had an angel. Might be ruined for me now because now I'm going to associate it with the end of this movie. But
Yeah, I mean, thank God it's over. That's all I can really think of.
I mean, honestly, yeah, like, I was just begging for it to be over. Like, I, it's so difficult. Like, obviously, this review, you know, we're hitting around the 50 minutes range right now, and you know, we've gotten there because we talked a little bit about the video game, we talked a little bit about the broad sense of Uwe Boll's like work, but like, these movies don't even have enough interesting things to talk about in the way that other bad movies that we talk about have. That this is
Right.
there's so little actually in this, and what is there is just cliched beyond belief. You know, whether it's the cliched narration where he's just saying like really direct things like, "Yeah, there's things in the dark, and I have to find them. This is my mission in life." You know, like kind of stuff like that, or it's just generic rivalry between good guy and like other kind of good guy, or it's whatever. Like it's just every beat in this you've seen done competently elsewhere before. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's just like incompetent on every level. And I don't know, I feel like there's so much stuff that the movie that like story-wise you feel like should be important, but the movie just never makes it feel important. Like they're constantly talking about this like ancient civilization, you know, and this paranormal investigative agency, and you know, like, all this stuff should again feel like, yeah, these big important like things, but just everything about the movie is just so dull. It just, nothing ever makes it feel like, you know, like anything important or anything that you want to learn more about. Like, yeah, even like these, you know, the threats of these monsters and stuff, and it's just so generic, and like there's nothing to really care about like character wise, so it's just everything is just so mind-numbingly dull and boring. It's really tough. And yeah, I mean, there's so many other bad movies that are so much far more entertaining. A lot of times like people will be like, oh yeah, like, you know, it's so fun to watch bad movies, and it's like there's really like just kind of like a select number of really enjoyable bad movies. Like a lot of times, you know, that's just really middling generic garbage like this is just, and I mean, to be fair, this is like much worse than like a lot of other like average,
Yeah, this is
middle of the road boring bullshit. But like,
this is the pinnacle of this type. Like this is up there at the top end. It is shockingly impressive just how much it is begging you to not pay attention to it. And you know, in a lot of ways, it does feel like a scam when you're watching it. It feels like,
oh, for sure,
it's so low effort. It's so lazy as far as filmmaking goes in every single facet. You know, we're talking just plug and play characters, dialogue, plug and play ideas, ripping off moments. There's a moment where a monster's behind one of the soldiers later on, and it's like you see the drill coming down first, and then the head comes down. I'm like, this is Alien. You're doing an Alien shot. Doesn't look as good, obviously. It doesn't feel as good. It isn't earned in the same way the Alien shot is, but it's there.
Yeah. Sucks.
The actors don't give a shit. They know they're in crap.
Sure.
They're here for a paycheck, and they're just sort of like phoning in their lines, just getting to the end of each workday and hoping that they have the energy to come in and do it again tomorrow. So that's,
which is like another thing that's kind of a shame, because at least if you had like, you know, like worse actors that were like doing the same lines but giving like really over the top like crazy performances, like that might be something to cling on to, that might make it a little more exciting to watch or whatever. But yeah, everyone just feels like they're really just phoning it in, just reading stuff off a script, doing like one takes and calling it a day.
Yeah. And you know, Christian Slater in particular, like, you know, I've seen him be very good in other things, and maybe it does hurt that, like, I'm not going to count Tara reading this, but maybe it does hurt that some of the actors are proper actors, so
yeah,
it's almost just more dull because of that, because they're phoning it in, but them phoning it in is like just enough of a competent delivery that it doesn't sound like
Yeah.
an alien saying it, or like in the way that a lot of really bad movies have funny like dialogue from actors who are terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Whether that's The Room, whether that's whatever. But this doesn't have that. Although there is one dude who works for Bureau 713 who they cut to. He's sitting like a computer or like maybe the phones at one point, and he is so badly dubbed. Like he clearly said other things. I think Stephen Dorff comes in and asks him a question, and he just like, if there's no information there, then I can't find it. So go away, boss. And he sort of like has a little snipe at the end. Like, but his mouth is not like it doesn't sound like it's his voice. It doesn't match. But then also, it's so far gone from what his lips are doing that you can tell like they changed whatever he said. Maybe they didn't like his delivery. Maybe he flubbed it every time or something. I don't know. But whatever reason, they completely dubbed this guy's like one extended line.
Again, like we usually like to watch movies that have somewhat of a bad reputation, but yeah, like Uwe Boll is just one of the ones that it's like, no, like trust us, it's not even like it's not even worth it on like a funny, ironic level or whatever. And I mean, these might be the only two movies of his I've seen, House of the Dead and this, because I don't think I've seen Blood Rain. And what else did he do? Postal, I believe he did.
Oh man, he did like 30 movies in the span of like a decade. So
like all video games. Like,
well, I think like 27 out of 30 are video games. There's like a couple that he did that weren't, but
oh yeah, he did that one Blubberella or something about the weird movie is like about like an overweight woman that fights Nazis or something like that. It seems very offensive.
He did a movie called Rampage. He did a movie.
I guess not the video game.
No. It was about, I think, a mass shooter, which I know sounds. Like
I'm sure you've handled that with the dignity and grace that heavy subject matter deserves.
Oh, he's known for having some dodgy and insensitive moments in his movies.
Just a few.
A few here or there. He sometimes Uwe, the old buddy of ours, he sometimes can't help himself.
Do you have the Wikipedia page open?
I have it open just now. Yes.
All right, you want to scroll down and read the. It might be a little long, but it might be worth reading the comments from the screenwriter of the movie. Oh,
is this in the alternate script section?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's like towards the bottom there.
All right, Blair Erickson came up with the first draft of the script Roll of Dart. According to Erickson, Uwe Boll changed the script to be more action-packed than a thriller. Erickson stated that has discussed at the treatment and spoke negatively of working with Boll on Something Awful. Something Awful being the name of a show or website. Yeah. So here's the quote, though. So that was just like a little intro to the thing. The original script took the Alone in the Dark premise and depicted it as if it were actually based on a true story of a private investigator in the northeastern US whose missing persons cases begin to uncover a disturbing paranormal secret. This already sounds very different. It was told through the eyes of a writer following Edward Cornbury and his co-worker for a novel, and depicted them as real-life blue-collar folks who never expected to find the hideous beings waiting for them in the dark. We tried to stick close to the H.P. Lovecraft style and the low-tech nature of the original game, always finding the horror in the shadows so you never saw what was coming from them. Thankfully, Dr. Boll was able to hire his loyal team of hacks to crank out something much better than our crappy story and add in all sorts of terrifying movie essentials like opening gateways to alternate dimensions, bimbo blonde archaeologists, sex scenes, mad scientists, slimy dog monsters, special army forces designed to battle slimy CG dog monsters, Tara Reid, Matrix slow motion gun battles. That's a bit generous, to be honest, calling them Matrix slow motion, and car chases. Oh yeah, and a 10-minute opening backstory scroll. A 10-minute opening backstory scroll read aloud to the illiterate audience. The only people able to successfully miss all the negative reviews. I mean, hell, Boll knows where's the real scares lie. I mean, yeah, clearly this dude was not fond of the finished movie.
Oh, I love it. I mean, go off, King, please. Like, yeah, I love that he doesn't hold back at all. I thought that was pretty funny.
No, it's yeah. I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't have no idea if what he was writing originally, that first version he mentioned, was closer to the games or not. I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But
and I mean, yeah, it'd still like, even if it was like a much better script, it'd still depend on like getting a good director and stuff. But I'm pretty confident it would have been much better than what we got here.
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
and like clearly the writer knows, like, all of the stuff that's like the problem. Like, he's like, yeah, like, no, he's just mentioning all the stuff that we just talked about that was just like, yeah, this is all like crap, this is garbage.
Yeah, shall we round up with a few 10-star reviews on IMDb?
I mean, I appreciate your attempt at humor, Pete, but there's no one ever rated this more than maybe 2 or 3 stars. I can't imagine.
22 people disagree.
I mean, I hate to sound mean, but they need to be put on some kind of watch list. I don't know if I trust these people.
Alone in the Dark is a very cool film. It's got everything a horror and action fan could possibly want.
I mean, I do consider myself a horror and action fan, and I did find myself quite wanting watching this.
A misunderstood masterpiece. We are not worthy.
What is this? Is this a... Oh, wait. Are these just all, like, from Uva Bowl?
Nice action / supernatural flick for fans of the genre.
No. I consider myself a fan of the genre, and I say no.
It was a great movie.
Okay.
A brilliant piece of surrealist art.
What movie did these people watch?
This one might not be a joke. Awesome laughter with commentary. I have heard that Uwe Boll's commentary tracks are a treat in and of themselves, but I cannot confirm that.
I can see that being entertaining, because he seems like a weird, unhinged person, so I could see that being funny.
Well, that does probably lead us on then nicely to our own ratings of the film, Timmy. So what are you giving it?
I mean, really don't do this often, but I mean, I think I gotta go with like a 1. You know what I'll do? I'll give it a 1.5 because of those like those few scenes in the beginning. The airplane and the taxi gave me a little bit of a slight chuckle, but I mean, other than that, like, there's nothing that this movie has going for it. Because sometimes we'll give something a low score, but you should be like 2 or 3, and you'll say like, oh, okay, like, it gets points because it's competently made, and whatever, there might be a moment here or there, but it has nothing like, I guess if you want to give it a point for like being able to understand the words that they say, and that, like, the camera wasn't accidentally pointing to the ground or something, like, yeah, I guess on the barest level, like, you could say there's a competency there.
I don't know. There's definitely conversations in this movie where I just didn't really follow what they said because it was just nonsense. So I don't know if I agree with that first part.
Well, I mean, like, if you listen, I mean that, like, the voices aren't muffled. Like, it's not like...
Okay, you mean the sound recording is...
Right,
okay.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. I do agree that, yes, it is hard to follow, mostly just because it is usually boring or dumb nonsense. But I'm just saying, on that very basic level, like, okay, fine. It's not like they accidentally recorded a blank wall and it was in another language I didn't understand or something. Like, it's whatever. There's a bare minimum, I guess, to that you can actually watch it. But I mean, there's nothing like redeeming though. Like, there's nothing that's like so wild and crazy it's funny. There's no like cool monsters or like, all right, well, I can see what they're going for here. This was pretty cool, but they didn't quite pull it off. But no, it's like there's like nothing about there, and it's to the point where like it becomes irritating. Like it's not just that this movie is boring or stupid. It's so boring and stupid that it makes me mad. Like, like to the point where I'm like angry that I'm watching this. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with a 1. I'm not. I'm not gonna belabor the point anymore. Everything in this movie's bad. There's not a single redeeming quality about it. Whether it's bad dialogue, poorly told story, convoluted elements, bad characters, and by bad characters I mean they don't have any character. Whether it's those things, whether it's actors just throwing in their performances, bad CG, just no element of pacing at all. Nothing really makes that much sense. It's just I feel like we piece together more of it just because we've seen enough movies with similar plots that we can kind of just get enough of it to understand what's going on. But I wouldn't say that the movie itself does a good job of really getting ideas across or setting things up. So
not at all. No.
1 out of 10. 1 out of 10.
Yeah, like I honestly I couldn't tell you what these monsters were or anything about that civilization that they're like studying.
The only thing I could say is that this ancient civilization had opened this door, realized some monsters were coming out, shut it, and then like buried the few monsters they were able to kill and sort of dealt with it back then. And now in present day,
because they're like allergic to gold or something. Yeah,
their weaknesses are gold, platinum, and so basically all the expensive metals.
And like there isn't even anything cool why didn't you have a scene where they had to like make gold bullets or something? Like, oh, that could have been cool.
Or just have a scene where like you have to use the fact that light is their weakness, use that against them. Be inventive. Which, by the way, whilst we're on the subject, the final scene of this movie is the Evil Dead 2 shot of something running up behind them as if to kill them, but it's broad daylight in the middle of the street. So but the rules are that they can't go out in daylight because they can't go out in light at all.
Yeah, so there's like no tension or anything. Or are you just saying this end scene here doesn't make sense?
The end scene doesn't make any sense because they couldn't be one of the monsters unless there's like a new type of monster that can go out in the daytime. But I just it doesn't work.
Interesting.
All right, that's Alone in the Dark. Hopefully you got something out of this train wreck. But this is episode 500, and honestly, a train wreck being our 500 episode sounds about right, to be honest. Sounds about on point as possible. So the coming schedule. So you just got recently the third Twilight movie. This is episode 500, and we have a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie out. So that'll be coming as soon as we can. So you had 3 episodes really close together. So then there'll be a bit of a gap, and then you'll get a new one in a couple of weeks after this. So look forward to, or a couple of weeks after Texas Chainsaw, I should say. So look forward to that. And more stuff. But yeah, we do have the new Texas Chainsaw coming up next. And yeah, so patrons of course are still getting bonus episodes, even more streams. We just did an even more streams past week at the time of recording and talked about some of the movies that we've both been watching, and actually talked about that Texas Chainsaw trailer in advance of the movie. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in all that stuff. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get access to the bonus content. Higher tiers get you access to some other things, including being a Patreon producer. So I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Treisman, and Alison M. Fordyce. So thank you all for being producers. But that is us, I think. Guys on Twitter, at Screams Midnight. I don't think I remember to say that, but yes. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the episode and look forward to maybe another 500.
We'll get to 540, maybe.
I don't know, 572. That's my goal.
All right.
That's my goal.
Was that the year you were born?
How dare you? You're older than I am, you prick. This has been Streams After Midnight. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies. And we'll see you next time. We're out.